Dr. von Bachstell will now read the citation for our next honorary degree recipient and our commencement speaker.
His love of filmmaking reportedly started when, as a 10-year-old, he received a camera as a gift, going on to make dozens of short films before he even had a driver's license. In the years since then, M. Night Shyamalan has become a Hollywood legend. Yet, the director, producer, screenwriter, and actor whose breakout hit The Sixth Sense appeared nearly 20 years ago, is known for filming and setting his movies in and around the city, hiring locally and utilizing area vendors and showcasing some of the region's best-loved attractions and locales. With 6 Academy Award nominations to his credit, Mr. Shyamalan mines otherworldly plot lines, and audiences everywhere respond. His movies have grossed more than $3 billion in theaters worldwide. Born in India, Mr. Shyamalan emigrated as a child with his parents, settling in Montgomery County. After graduating from Episcopal Academy, he majored in film at the New York University Tisch School of the Arts. A New York Times article described Mr. Shyamalan as an A-list Hollywood legend whose work is ablaze with beauty and wisdom. He has been honored on numerous occasions, appearing on the cover of Newsweek. Mr. Shyamalan also devotes his time to the philanthropic projects of his family foundation. For his commitment to making movies that explore the supernatural while touching moviegoers' hearts, Drexel University is proud to present M. Night Shyamalan with the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Drexel University, under the charter issued by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I confer upon you, M. Night Shyamalan, the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. Congratulations, Knight. And Dr. Shyamalan will now deliver our commencement address.
What's up, Dragons? All right, let's start with how grateful I am. I met John Fry at an Eagles game before we were the Super Bowl champs. I want to thank Drexel as a community. I want to thank the trustees, and I understand there's like 20 to 25,000 people here. I want to thank all of you for coming here today and let me be your speaker today. It's quite an honor. I actually came here, guys, to ask you a question. How many of you are going to change the world? Now, ideally, all of you would have stood up and would have yelled and screamed and cheered and chilled this damn stadium. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a filmmaker. I was born in India, and I spent my whole life here in Philadelphia. And I'm going to tell you 2 versions of my life so far, both equally true. This is an attempt to be real for a second with each other. This is going to be a really unusual commencement speech. Well, here's the first version. Went to NYU Film School on 2 scholarships, graduated in a little over 3 years, made my first film at 21, making me one of the youngest professional filmmakers in history, sold an original script in one of the biggest bidding wars of the time, and then went on to be a writer on 3 films that went on to be the 3 biggest films of that year for 3 studios. One of them was The Sixth Sense. I wrote at 25, directed at 27, went on to become one of the biggest films of all time. Wrote and directed nonstop from then till now, culminating at over $3 billion. in the theaters, most of which came from original movies out of my head. Word for word, I could argue that I am the highest paid writer in the world. I've been offered every franchise film you can imagine. Everything I've ever written since puberty has been offered to be made into a film. My films have opened #1 in every country in the world countless times. Most likely every adult in this stadium has seen one of my films. Most likely every one of these adults has given me money. I have never had a job other than a filmmaker. I walk into a room with other filmmakers, and the word I hear most often is honor. It's an honor to meet you. I meet artists from around the world, and they say, "You are an icon." So now here's the second version of my career. Made a film at 21. It was pulled from one theater in 2 weeks. Made a second film that was pulled from a handful of theaters in a couple weeks. The second film was reviewed by major reviewers and despised. 2-time failure at 24. Living in my parents' guest room with my new wife. Sold a script to Fox and was immediately fired by them as the director. Show my film The Sixth Sense to people. No one thinks it will work. It gets dumped in the worst release time of the year back then. Make a few hit films in a row. Then make a film that Newsweek calls the worst film of the year. Win countless awards for failure and lack of talent as the years go by. There is an internet blog mocking me and raising money to send me back to film school. There is hatred from critics and bloggers alike. I make children's films that get roasted and fail, have a press screening of a film that I love, and in the middle of the press screening, a person stands up and says, "This film sucks." Never happened before or after. A studio's computer gets hacked. In those hacks, there are released emails that say they don't believe in me and wouldn't hire me. Find myself questioning myself, every thought that comes out of my head. The world of my industry has decided I have no worth. I am a cautionary tale, a person who got lucky for a time, but revealed himself to be a sham. I make an independent film that I pay for, and every single studio passes. I am on the verge of financial collapse. I do not believe in myself. How do we explain these two versions of a life? How does this all make sense? You know, it did make sense to me, and I can go back and understand it all, because there was a principle at work, and I didn't see it. I was incredibly powerful at every step of the way, and I didn't see it. I am here to put forth the theory that every one of you is insanely powerful and don't know it. Let me tell you the moment kind of this all started to make sense to me. So I told you I decided to pay for a film, right, this independent film. Well, I took a loan against our house, and this was kind of a time when nobody was calling. Nobody wanted to make a film with me. So I don't know if this was out of courage or just desperation, but I took a loan against our house, and I made a film without anybody's permission. So I went and shot the movie, and 6 weeks after I finished it, I was so nervous about what I'd done. I wanted to show the film studios the movie to get one of them to buy it, so I would know I'd be safe before I finished the film. I flew out to Los Angeles, and I showed it to every studio. Everyone passed. Now, passed means they're not interested. That's kind of an industry term. I flew home in a daze. I was going to lose millions and have to sell the movie to video on demand, and no one would see it, and the world would know I'd made a film that was unreleasable. I came home into my house, and I saw my family. I was really quiet. Obviously, I was in a daze, and my youngest daughter, who's here somewhere, was in the dining room, and there was a puzzle box that she wanted to do that we were given, and I promised her we would do this puzzle. And I just was standing there in a daze, and I was like, "You want to do the puzzle?" I asked her softly, and she said, yeah. She was really excited. So we opened up the puzzle box, dumped all the pieces, 1,000 pieces, on the dining table, and we started the puzzle. And we took 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and looked and tried to find the shape, and we found 2 pieces that fit together. And then we spent another 15 minutes, and we found a second piece, to put it together, another one. And I was like, this is impossible. This is just impossible. And we spent another 10, 15 minutes and found another piece. and another 10, 15 minutes, and found another piece, and another, and another. And we're about like 2 hours in now, and we have like 8 to 10 pieces, and we're ecstatic. And we feel so accomplished and excited, and it hits me. It all suddenly felt so simple. Why did we keep looking for another piece? Why didn't we just stop? Why didn't we give up? How did we find those 8 to 10 pieces? Because we knew there was a picture. It's right there on the box. It's right there. And then it kind of all, I mean, I literally remember this moment in the dining room. It all felt suddenly so simple, intensely simple and right. I don't need to know what the picture is of my life. I just have to trust there is a picture. Find the next puzzle piece and trust. Don't try to figure out the picture. Don't try to find all the pieces at once. Find one piece, trust the rest. I felt relief, and more to the point, I felt powerful. So I went into the editing room the next day, and I just made one scene better, just one moment better, and I just concentrated, tried a different take, moved the line a little bit, tried a different, sound effect here, made that moment better. Then I made another moment better, and another moment better, and another moment better, and I just stopped thinking about selling the movie. I stopped thinking about what was going to happen to me, and I just got addicted to this feeling of finding that next thing, making that next thing better, and I just did that day after day after day after day, and then when I was almost done, I was like, I know who I want to show to. There was one studio that said they wouldn't mind seeing it when it was done. And so when I finished it, we went to a movie theater in Los Angeles, and I asked this one studio to come out there. We showed them the movie in front of an audience. The audience went crazy. They bought the movie. That movie was The Visit. It was bought by the Universal Pictures, and it went on to become one of the biggest independent movies of that year. And it cost $5 million. Thank you. And it made $100 million, and I owned it. And then I paid for my next film, Split, and that cost $9 million, and that grossed $280 million. And then I just paid for the next movie, Glass. I tried to make sense of all of this, what I just told you guys. What was I feeling at the puzzle? Why did I feel so powerful? And how did that manifest into reality in the real world? How is it sometimes in life I felt powerful and sometimes not? How was I getting these conflicting signals? How come the system held me in place where it wanted to and other times I could do what I wanted? Then I came across this philosopher, Epictetus. Epictetus is a Greek philosopher from about 2,000 years ago, and in his book called The Handbook, he talks about how the universe works. To believe Epictetus' philosophy, you have to believe one thing. You have to believe the universe is fundamentally benevolent, fundamentally good. This is just something you just gotta accept in your DNA, in your bones. He delineates between those things that we have power over and those things the universe has power over. At any moment in our lives, we have control over countless things, including our thoughts, and that is enough. When we try to put control or put our energy into those things the universe has control over, it will backhand you and teach you otherwise. It is in this dynamic that we get confused, where we start to feel falsely powerless. If you write a song, put all your energy in the emotion and the craft of writing the song. Spend no energy on how it will be received after that. That's the universe's job. It may want you to fail on your first few albums, but let you find the exact right writing partner that lets you dig deeper and find that point of view that will change the world. It is none of your concern how the universe helps you. You just have to believe the universe is moving on your behalf to let you grow and give you countless opportunities to do what you are doing. You got fired in the field that you love. There was a reason, one that will help you. What do you have control over at that moment? That is enough. A person who concentrates on what they have power over becomes unlimited in their ability to manifest what they want in the world. What do you have control over, and leave the rest to the control of the universe? It's on your side. Don't try to get involved in its business. You're going to get smacked. This kind of dovetails with my belief that we are powerful antennas, and whatever we're concentrating on and doing draws like things. This is all probably physics, actually, the movement of energy, and we call it the universe, and some people call it God. We are extremely powerful. I want to give you a couple little anecdotes, a couple stories. One is actually from a friend of mine, Frank Marshall, who's a producer. I did not ask his permission to tell this story, so he may get upset. But when he was younger, he was in Italy, and he was working on a film. He was an associate producer working on a film for a director named Peter Bogdanovich. And this was a long time ago. And it was in Italy, and they were having lunch, and a young filmmaker named Steven Spielberg came to visit the set. And they sat down. He told me the story. They sat down for the lunch, and Peter Bogdanovich, the director, said, "Hey, can you fix that XY? Did you guys take care of that XYZ problem? I'm really worried about this." And Frank sat down at the table, and all the pasta was laid out for everybody, and he just got up and said, "I'm going to take care of this right now." And he left. And Steven Spielberg saw that Frank got up and didn't eat his pasta. And this little moment stuck in Steven's head, and he thought to himself, gosh, I want somebody like that helping me make my movies. Fast forward to a beach many years later, and George Lucas and Steven Spielberg are talking about making a movie, and Steven says, "I'm going to direct James Bond," and then George Lucas says, no, I got a better character. He's an archaeologist. Tells him the story, and Steven's like, I'm in, I'll direct it. And then they say, well, who should produce it? And then Steven says, oh, well, there's this guy I met a long time ago. I'm going to check out and see where he is. So he calls up Frank Marshall and asks him to be the producer of Raiders of the Lost Ark. And Frank goes on to become one of the most prolific producers of all time, including producing 3 of my movies. Does Steven remember this man if he isn't entirely about the things that are important to him? If he literally eats that pasta, does he not become the biggest producer of all time? And I think about that story a lot. I'm going to tell you another one. 1961 in Dartford, England, there's a 17-year-old boy. He's obsessed with American blues, in specific Chicago bluesmen. He spends all his time listening to the radio and trying to find these American records, which were hard to find in London at that time. All he does is think about blues and music and play his guitar. So one day he's sitting at a train station, and he sees another kid around his age waiting for the train. This kid that's standing there waiting for the train is holding a Chuck Berry album and a Muddy Waters album. This 17-year-old is sitting down, gets up, goes over to this kid, and says, how'd you get these albums? How did you do this? Why are you holding these albums? And the 2 kids start talking. The kid who's holding the album says, oh, I know a place that has these, an underground place, let's go. They talk about blues and all that stuff. The boy on the bench at the train station is Keith Richards, maybe the greatest rock and roll guitarist of all time. And the boy with the records is Mick Jagger, maybe the greatest rock and roll lead singer of all time. They go on very soon after that meeting to create the Rolling Stones. So was that luck? Was it God? Was Keith Richards concentrating so much on what he had control over that he noticed what the boy was holding? He could have easily been looking at the pretty woman that was waiting for the train, or the dad who was yelling at the son, or he could have been staring at nothing. Whatever he was focused on was there to be seen. Did the universe bring the greatest rock and roll singer to the train station at the exact right moment with those albums? Did the universe make sure he was holding it in his left hand and not his right hand? And for you critics out there, was it just luck? But see, this kind of stuff keeps happening to me over and over and over. The exact right thing I need to see or happen happens when I'm focused with clarity, like an antenna, like we all are. I concentrate on a character that can play 24 personalities. One's a child, one's a woman. It has to be scary, it has to be beautiful. He has to make us root for him. And literally, James McAvoy bumps into me at an event. I've never met the man. He could have walked around the table. He was going to a bar, and he could have gone that way. He went 2 feet this way, and he came and bumped into me. And as soon as I met him, I'm like, this is the guy. And he gave an extraordinary performance. And I'm not sure if anybody could have played that part except that one man that bumped into me, and I'd never met him before. Happens over and over and over to me. What I'm saying is really hard to hold on to. I get that. It's really hard to, when you're trying to believe you have something worthy to contribute. You will face stages as the system tries to, hold you back a bit. It'll start with your voice is not worthy. Then if you just keep fighting, you'll get to the next stage, which is, hey man, your voice is just not relatable. Then you'll get to the next stage if you keep pushing through. Hey, maybe there's something there we can guide if you start listening to the system enough. Then you keep pushing forward, and you get to whatever's working in your voice is not sustainable, it's a fluke. And then you keep working, and you keep concentrating on the things you have control over, and you get to, hey, yeah, your voice is great. We're going to put it in the system, and the system changes. The same thing goes on with my original movies. It starts out like, it's always the same. This is terrible. This is a mess. Then the next, as you work on it and work on it and work on it, then it's like, oh, this has a ton of problems. It's too weird. And then it graduates to, hey, parts of it work. Then it goes to, it's pretty good, but XYZ expected thing is better. And then it finally goes to, I knew that was great all along. Many times I've stopped at one of these stages and agreed. Other times I've powered through to my own truth, like the visit, with the puzzle pieces which remind me where my power is. I vacillate from powerful to powerless, how pathetic and inspiring I am, just vacillating back and forth in equal measures. The system has pre-programmed me to believe the prior. It's why our basketball players miss their open shots. They don't realize they're in complete control of the outcome and believe they might be powerless, and the circumstances will prove that. You can see it as they're taking that shot when it goes from the things they have the control over to wondering what will happen, which is the universe's job. It's why we shove away someone we love and we're getting intimate with. We feel the need to protect ourselves because we're not in control of the outcome and we'll get hurt by what the universe sends us. Our fear of what we have power over, our actions, our gestures, our words, our thoughts, isn't enough. We grab for what the universe has control over. And here's the strange part. We are all bizarrely scared of our own power. Every time we feel it, we shut down, start fearing it isn't true, waiting for something bad to happen, to disprove what we just experienced. This leads to destructive postures and actions, and more to the point, we put our energy into the things the universe has control over and feel powerless, and the cycle spirals. I can feel it in me when I'm worrying about the reaction to the ideas I have versus working on the execution of those same ideas. We keep wanting to make sure the outcome is what we want. Just trust the universe is on our side. My wife, Dr. Bhavna Shyamalan, and I have a foundation, the M. Night Shyamalan Foundation. We help leaders around the world that move their communities forward despite impossible odds. We support individuals that concentrate on what they have control over and do seemingly impossible things in hopeless situations. You guys might think, hey man, you're older, I'll figure this out when I get older, that I'm down the road a bit. Well, let's look at a group of people that are before you, actually. I'm particularly interested in the achievement gap in America. Where are my education graduates? Where are they? How many of you, the rest of you, know what this is? The education gap, the achievement gap. This is the gap between low-income inner-city schools, which are 98% African American and Hispanic, and their white suburban counterparts. And this has existed forever and continues to this day, and it drives me crazy. I wrote a book called I Got Schooled a few years ago based on our research our foundation did by scouring education studies in the United States over the last 25 years. I went in there thinking and looking for why these schools were bad. And what I found out, there's nothing wrong with these schools. The data was really clear if you really look at it. It's outside the schools that there is a problem. Those kids walk in there with a belief system so strong that we created. Basically, the data says America is racist. Those kids are being whispered to and yelled at in every form, from movies to what stores are on their block, to images they see, to their friends and loved ones' attitudes from their own experiences they had. Everyone is telling them the same message. This country is not for you. You are worthless. You don't matter. You are powerless. The things that data shows close the achievement gap are all related to belief systems and the dissemination of those new beliefs. Did you know that 2/3 of the entire achievement gap between low-income inner-city kids that are Black and Hispanic and their white suburban counterparts happens in the summer? You heard me right. If there is a kid in the inner-city low-income school and there's a white suburban kid and they're at the same level in June, when they come back in September, the white suburban kid is 1 month ahead and the low-income inner-city kid is 3 months behind in September. They're 4 months apart. They don't even look like the same students. And that happens because they're getting pummeled by subtle and not subtle messaging that tells them that they are useless, and they believe it. Summer after summer, it builds and separates these two children, and they don't even look comparable. The tenets of the principles that close the achievement gap close it by screaming a culture of empowerment so loud, it's louder than the racist message we shout to them when they are out of school. and these kids close the gap. In fact, they can outperform the white suburban kids. We have one leader, Alejandro Gac-Ortegas, that works with kids and families for 5 weeks over the summer and achieves a 3-month reading game that stays with them throughout the school year. If you're doing the math, they are 6 months ahead of their other inner city low-income peers and 2 months ahead of their white suburban counterparts. These kids that are closing the gap and creating a gap the other way are being taught to concentrate on those things they have control over, unlearning the helplessness that was injected into their DNA by a country that was built with the sin of slavery in its veins. What I believe is that this is a direct line from 300 years ago to the achievement gap, a belief system. Why didn't every single one of the 2018 graduating class stand up and roar and cheer when I asked them that if they were going to change the world? The banality of life sometimes lulls us into believing there isn't this matrix-like power over the world, that we are this powerful, that those that stand before you, like myself, have some magic power. You know, I didn't come here to advise you. I came here to demand you stop pretending and lead me. The system tricks us into thinking we are powerless, and the system will give us power when it deems fit. But here's the amazing thing. The system is made up. Caps, the gowns we're wearing, the chairs, everything's made up. Art, the length of a record was, the song is made by the size of the record. Seatbelts not being on buses. Bands leaving the stage and coming back for an encore. The dairy industry is good for you. We don't know how to make electric cars. The laws, the electoral system based on protecting those states with slaves, it's all made up. Why not you? Why did you buy into this garbage that you are not the creators of this world? When did you turn into those little inner city African American and Hispanic kids who believe they are not smart? When did you start on the journey to be like me and vacillate and discredit truth as it happens to me? When did you abdicate your power to start secretly cursing the universe? I didn't come here to lecture you and say, be like me. I came here to say, be better than me. Be way better than me. We've all been told a lie. It's what kept you in those damn seats that someone else decided the width and the depth and the curve of, and by the way, it's bad for you. Someone else decided how you were going to sit. And you know what happens when you don't realize your power? A wannabe artist gets rejected from art school and convinces an entire country to kill Jewish people, skewer babies on tree limbs. A megalomaniac can subvert a planet and human rights in the name of protecting an antiquated idea of America. A person can walk into a school and shoot children. These people feel powerless, and they find power by showing the illusion of the system, feel in some perverted way powerful by exposing this same lie. It's not healthy for any one of us to not feel powerful. It's not healthy for humanity. I didn't come here to lecture you. I came here to yell at you. You can't sit in your damn seats. You have succeeded at the highest level, graduating from one of the finest institutions in the world by doing what everyone told you to do in the way they told you to do it. Now stop it. We don't need another 6,000 souls going out in the world thinking they are powerless unless they succeed at a system that was laid out for them before them. I don't accept you are too young to know better. I don't accept your passivity. I don't accept your fears you have told yourself. There is enough people graduating today in this stadium, just this place, to change everything, period. Every law, every medical practice, every art form, every way our society relates, how we treat the mentally ill, how we treat those that don't look like us. You are powerful beyond your wildest dreams right now. Epictetus was right. The universe is just waiting for you, waiting and listening, waiting for you to say something. Now I'm going to ask you again, one last time, and you better answer it right, because I have 3 daughters, and you're responsible for them. From this point on, you're responsible for all our sons and daughters. Class of 2018, how many of you are going to change the world? Thank you for listening to my theory of you guys.
That, that wasn't a commencement speech. That was a gift. Take that gift and work with it.